Welcome back to the GLAC Studios oil painting tutorial. This is Gomati Sivasankaran. We are in class 19 of the large canvas painting of Radha Krishna. We have had intense, interesting sessions going over layer 1, 2, 3, and we are in layer 4, working on the details. The last two sessions were about, the skin tones of Radha and Krishna, and we did have a good understanding, I think, of blending the color tonalities and working, co-working in a way that we begin to give the effect of human presence, or some realism in that manner. Maybe not hyper realism, but some realism in that manner. So we did work on that, and we are now going to continue work on this painting with the layer 4. The next step is going to be working on the clothing of Radha and Krishna. So that's where we are going to start today. Just before we start, I always look at corrections or something that I have missed to say in the previous and so on. So one thing I wanted to say, it's not a correction, but I just wanted to say is that you will see her forehead, Radha's forehead that we did slightly is, broader than what you see in the picture, or you know in the overall for the face. And the reason why I do it deliberately like this, it's not an error. I deliberately leave out a little more space on the faces, because when we work on the layer 4 of the hair, doing slightly details of the hair, we will need to use a little bit of that space, in between that space where the hair is ending and the forehead is starting. So that's, there are, what do you call, small little hair. I don't know what to say that in English, but we do have that, falling on the face that we will try to work with, isn't it? So that's exactly why I leave out a little more space. So once we are done with the face only, it might look like it's slightly, in a way larger, or do we need to adjust here and there? I think Krishna's face doesn't show much of it, because his hair is also tending to be more inside the crown in the real picture as well. In most of the references, that's the case. So maybe we will not do too much there, but as regards Radha, her crown, or whatever she's wearing on her head, it's slightly really, away from the forehead as such, the beginning of the forehead as such. So we will have something to work with there. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then for the clothing, so just before I'm going to highlight this camera to work with, I'm going to highlight my own camera and bring it to the front. So you see something that I have in my hand. Okay. So for this is for the benefit of those who have never mm, worked with a clothing like this, and that I am going to show you a piece of cloth, and just explain how the sari draping happens. So let's imagine this is a fairly large piece of cloth, and if I were to wear it as a sari, and you might have seen maybe women wearing it nowadays, we call it pleating. So this is creating proper folds, like this, and folds like this, and then wearing it. So it looks like it's placed really in a proportionate manner and so on. But those days, this pleating system wasn't there. I think mm, this is the way, they crunch it, they push it, put it on top of the body. Uh, so what you see here is that some part of the cloth is going to be coming behind the left shoulder of mine, and it's going to be floating away, and that's what you see in her clothing also, that it's floating away from behind. What is that? So this cloth is just going to be, floating away in air, especially when somebody is on a swing like this. That's one. So that floating away part is clear. Now let's look at how this is worn. So I take an edge of this and then I will bring this to the back of my body. So this way you see that there is a lot of, cloth fluffy, around my body, and then it is cross, falling across. And if you can imagine, in her case, she's wearing a blouse that is coming, close to her, the rib cage of her body. That's where it is, cutting off. So that's where a slight bit of hip is visible on the left side of her body. So this is how the draping is happening. So this is a loosely placed draping, doesn't have any pleats or proper, folds. So it's just, hanging there. And, just imagine the cloth rising and falling like this. All these, folds, isn't it? These folds and creases. And imagine that this is also under pressure because of the air. So I'm sitting static in front of you, but this is not the case here. So it's also in movement. So keeping all these things in view, we are going to work on the upper body's, clothing of Radha. The one that is on the hip, you can imagine more like a skirt. It's flowy, yeah. That is easier for you to understand. If it's a flowy skirt, that is slightly easier for you to understand how things are. Yeah. I think that would be a easier way to approach this. So that's about introduction of how to work with a draping like this. Yeah. And then let's see how we work with this clothing. Let's look at the colors. Yeah, I think vermilion is a very good color that I will use. I'm going to add a bit of Prussian blue. You can also try indigo or you know um, any other blue to mix with a little bit here. It's going to turn slightly on the purple side um, to give the effect of the folds. That's something I am imagining. Going back to the color palette that I had in mind, yeah, I think the reference to was the one for the colors, isn't it? So it was a plain red, and I want to have that slight dimension of darkness done using a blue. So that's the idea that I have in mind. So I'm going to go with vermilion and also a little bit of Prussian blue and titanium white wherever needed to lighten up and so on. Um, and of course, I will use a bit of this micro brush. The burnt umber idea that we use for the skin tones also works well in this as well. So I will do that. Okay. And let's see if we are able to manage fine. We can also do a similar color tonality comes here with Krishna's clothing here. So we could achieve that as well to just, work on a color range today. Yeah. Maybe we will need a bit of lemon yellow or cadmium orange. I have cadmium orange and lemon yellow from the last class. We might need that as well as we go along. Yeah. So let's see. Right now, I'm going to take a round brush and I will be using a little more of vermilion first to do the filling in. Yeah. You can use the reference for the folds if it is slightly confusing, like I said, imagine all these folds, and you can, like the way I showed you when I was wearing the clothing, it showed about 5 to 6 folds, I think. Yeah. You can go back and look at it. You can have lesser number of folds depending upon, how you want to work with. So it's really up to you. So, and imagine the edge of the clothing that is there will have a border that we have also marked. So that bordering is in possibly in a golden color. So we'll have a golden color range there. Yeah. So this is the vermilion. What I'm going to do is to just move the camera here. So this is the raw vermilion, and what I'm going to do is that the Prussian blue, I'm going to add a little bit here. So it turns slightly darker. It looks like it is black, but it isn't. It's a beautiful color that will come up here. Yeah. So you can have this ready with you whenever you need to use that highlight. Yeah. So this is a nice one. Prussian blue. You can use it raw as well. So it turns really bluey, metallic color. And it's a nice color to work with when you want to give that effect of darkness there in some parts of the body and so on. I'm going to hang on to this color in this round brush number 2. And I will take another round brush for my benefit to work with. You can have round brush number 1 to use for the raw color here. Mhm. So I'm going to go ahead and work with that in the upper part of the body. So going ahead, let's fill in. Filling in should be easy, isn't it? Let's fill in. But while filling in, remember the angle. Even though it's just going to be filling in, do not go in different angles. Try to do that same angle. So that's the slant, where the clothing is going. That's the angle. Keeping the angle intact, let's fill in. Yes, I have filled in here. Going to fill in. I'm going to use the zero brush for the color that I mixed, the Prussian blue color tonality that I mixed, to add up in the sides a little bit and start blending that in here. So it is slightly on the darker side, but that's the one that is the one behind, so it doesn't catch the light, isn't it? So it's the one that doesn't catch the light because it is just behind her shoulder. So I've added a tiny bit of it. It's just giving you a very tiny shade. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just going with the flow here. I like the blue directly applied also. So I'm going to take a little more of the Prussian blue, going around like this, going in the waves, building in those waves along. Yeah. And I'm going to use that for the contour here strongly. Yeah, I'm just going to use that for the contour here strongly. Yeah, can you see? I've done that. And I'm going to blend that in. These two itself is going to help me come with that, So it's just 2 colors, but that's going to help us come with that requirement. Going back with the larger brush, and I'm just blending in that color. It turns, slightly on the blacky range, but it isn't black. It's giving that depth. ever so lightly when you blend it in. Remember the angle of the flow. It's cloth, so you don't need to be a perfect, it doesn't need to be a perfect line. You want it to be folded here and there, isn't it? So give that fold. Give that effect and blend that in. Yeah. Blend the color in. Not worry about the red going wrong here. We will have another layer also to do on this if you want. You can do so many layers to this. It's just that we are going to give that effect of cloth being folded nicely, crumbled maybe here and there. Blend it in here. You can take a little bit more of the blue, the vermilion to blend it one more time if you think it's getting too darker or so. In this case, I feel here I can see it's slightly more darker, so I'm going to blend it in nicely here. I have taken a bit more of the color here and trying to blend it in here. Mhm. Does this make sense? Good. So we're going to continue that on her. The part of the sari that is just falling off her shoulder, isn't it? It's just swinging. So let's do that swing thing. We have to adjust the camera one more time here. So this is, yeah, perfectly in this angle that you could see. Yeah, good. So again, with the brush number one, going, remember the angle, it's going along like this, and it is just going behind her shoulder. Remember the swing. So it's part of the cloth that is swinging along like this. So I want to finish off in on some portions of it. The way I want to show it is that, this corner of the clothing is falling off like this. That's the way I want to show it. And I want to use that blue to show. So I'm just using that line here, crossing over, and that's the one that is coming here. So this is the inner side of the clothing, and that one is just the one that is going upwards. So this side of the clothing is falling downwards. That's how I want to show this. So this is going upwards. So I have made that mark already with the blue, and I'm going to use the red to fill in, the vermilion to fill in. Okay, how are we doing? As opposed to what we have been working on, the faces, this seems slightly easier in that manner, provided you understand the flow of the clothing and you want to build that flow of the clothing. I think this is slightly easier in that manner. Make sure that you don't do too much of that, effect. And remember the contours. It's going to be slightly darker here. This is getting The moment you think it is getting slightly on a blacky side, try to use a little more of the vermilion to overpower it so it'll give a shiny shade, and you are nearly there with the color tonalities. Not working too much in between the the leaves here, because we are going to do the leaves in much more detail, and that's when they will take care of itself. It will take care of itself then when we do it that way. I just need another clean brush to uh, slightly adjust here, because I have accidentally touched on her skin tone. I don't want that. I just rubbed it off. Yeah. Just be careful with all these things. You never know when you accidentally touch on, the other area. This is the upper part, and now we are going. Okay, so what I showed you was the cloth going around my chest and going behind, isn't it? The one that is going behind is folded here on the hip. It ends here on the hip, and then we have a skirt. So that's the part that we are going to show, and we want to show it slightly different. I used a different color totally last time, just to give you an idea. But right now I'm just going to add the vermilion. So the other side of the cloth is just being held because it is folded and put or way inserted into the skirt. So it is held here, in the hip area. So I have filled it in, and I'm using, so we need to imagine the way it is going right now. It's, going towards her hip area. So this is the direction that I'm having to do. So I've worked on that, and I'm now adding a little more of the vermilion to give that shade. Remember the contours. It gets easier once you know the logic. It gets easier. Until such time it's slightly a challenge, I understand. Yeah, so that was the top portion, and now we are going to imagine that it's a skirt. Yeah, but we have to understand that it's also in between thigh. The skirt is um, you know placed, or what do you call it? It's folded as well, or also the cloth is just being pushed by the air and so on. So there's so much dynamism there. We are going to keep that in mind and use the same logic of adding vermilion to it. Okay, so I'm going to go around pushing the. Okay, I think it will be helpful if I moved it slightly up for you. So this is fine. So you see that there's a part of this vermilion going towards the thigh like this, and then the other leg is invisible much. It's folded Yeah, so we show that fold. Somewhere I feel there is an angle miss. I don't know if you have noticed it. I think we have made a mistake that I noticed. So if the thigh is folded here, the knee is here, then the swing's edge should be here. Would you agree? So we will have to rework on the swing. I'm just marking that line for us to understand. Yeah. This is how we keep on understanding, angles. Even though we are taking references, it's important what we have created, isn't it? Yeah, we did take a reference. What have we created? How is that looking? So keep that in view and add. So we will add few more colors to this. It's not just two colors. So wait for this. More depth comes when we have some more shades, isn't it? So we will do that. This is how the angle is going right now for this thigh. And I'm going to do the thighs first. So there is this partition of the thigh that's darkening because of the, we want to show that. And then I want to put like slight curves going up there. These curves are also there in the clothing. The clothing isn't so perfectly, like that. So I have done that. And now I'm going to use the Prussian blue to go over the angle here. Ever so lightly. And then we start with the larger angles that we will do in a short while from now, but let's do this first, yeah? So let's work on this. I'm going to blend, and I will take a little more of vermilion to blend further. Yes, I want to have that Prussian blue going in here for the shadows, shades also. So blending that in nicely. Look at that. Do not worry about the, the clothing over there, the gold. We will work on it when we come to that. So this is the effect of the blending that we are able to see this. So now I'm going to blend it a little bit more here. Blended that in. Look at the angle in which my brush is moving. Take a little more of vermilion if you need to blend it further. And also remember the thigh, under thigh area that is dark, and also this part of the skirt that's highly not accessible for natural light. Yeah. And if you look at the way the cloth is swinging, oh, we could definitely adjust the space here. Yes. So we did only straight strokes when we did the previous layer. Right now we are going to add some more nice folds in it. Yeah. So that's going to be the part that we will work with here. So I'm going to move the camera slightly down. Let's look at this nice angles that we could build. Maybe I'm using the Prussian blue first to show you the angle that I'm going to build. So I'm just going to show that this is moving down here and then goes slightly upwards like this. That's the twist that I'm trying to build. Yeah. And light now, this isn't a straight line at all, so it's going to hang down and move up. And then maybe the clothing is just, flowing up and down. This is coming further down to move up. This, I want to use this space. Remember, I said this line isn't the right one? I did have a feeling about it in the beginning. So that's the move that we are making with the clothing. This is going to be a deeper cut again, going down and up further. We'll have few more angles coming in like that, yeah? The cloth angles coming like that. Yeah. Right. So I have drawn these lines first to show you the flow of the clothing. There is lines from the previous one as well. So we have enough to, enough contours that we have built. We want to show that flow of the clothing nicely. So this is the fold that I'm built. It's up to you. You want to build more flares and flows of this lovely skirt. You go ahead, do that. Yeah? Let's get creative about it. Yes. So I'm just building in that. Now I'm working on the vermilion. This is the new line of where the swing is ending. So I'm just keeping that in mind and going on and filling in the sections with vermilion again. The flow of the cloth. I'm not taking too much of linseed oil, yeah, raw linseed oil. I do have it with me. I haven't refilled at all. Um, if you have seen me that I've not mentioned it in the start, it's just because, I haven't refilled it at all. I don't see the need of so much of oil at all. Nowadays, the kind of pigments that we are getting, it's already loaded with oil in some way, I feel. So I don't see the need of taking more of that, especially when we are moving across layers right now the way we are. It is really less and less that we will use. There will be some place where maybe if you are giving a glaze effect or something that you will need a little more. Rather than that, I don't see much of it. Yeah, much of use. So less and less is better. And also remember these contours. Maybe I want to do that in Prussian blue to just show you that there is this contour also that you want to show. Remember that this is slightly darker because of the shade falling off. Which of the, swing in your clothing is creating shade and from where? Keep that in mind. I'm just building all these textures for you to see, and I'm doing it without the vermilion first to just give you the impact, to give you an idea of where I am trying to build those, lines. So going back to the vermilion again, using the vermilion again. Blend that in as much as possible. We want the lines to show, but it should not be sharp lines. They should be like looking like the folds of the clothing, which will eventually come in, when we work on further layers as well. You'll see that it's easier to build. Yes. Ah, right. This section is done for me. I'm moving to the next fold coming from her knee. Remember the source where the fold is beginning, the source needs to be strongly shown, and then the flow of the clothing. Right. So we are coming close to this completion of this clothing with these two colors, but we are going to work on another color right now in a short while from now. Yes. Let's see. I'm just moving the camera to this angle. Fantastic. Using that vermilion to go around. Okay, now the lines are still visible strongly, light and dark. I'm going to play with another color here. So I was thinking of lemon yellow. That's a translucent color. I'm going to take a little bit of that and test and see how things are in one of those places. So I'm taking in the same brush lemon yellow. And let's see. Okay, that gives a ever so light impact, not too much, but it gives a shade. Can we use that to give a shade in the places where you want to see some light? We will definitely use titanium white as well. Yes, that's also nice. But let's use this lemon yellow because it will give that ever so, what do you call, a light, shiny impact to the clothing. Yeah. So I'm going to use that in some places where I want to highlight. That's where, possibly there is this light being thrown. We can use titanium white. It turns what do you call it? In a way, it turns pink, and it will when we use that. So before going into the titanium white area, I'm just going to test with this. Give that shade, give that shine of the clothing in all those places where you can see. Again, logic really plays an important role here. See where the light could be falling when a cloth is flowing in. You can see that's why we still stick to the black and white image. Can you see this fold of the cloth? This fold of the cloth is catching the light, and that's why there is a shade right behind. Such things are interesting to work with. Interesting angles to work with, so do that here. Yes. I'm going to do that again on the thigh area as well. So it doesn't look like much of a difference, but every minute difference really plays a role collectively when once you begin to look at the bigger picture. So I take a little more of that, blend it in her thigh area. Yes, I need a little more of that again for the upper part of the body, the clothing on the upper part of the body. I'm going to show a little bit of lighting here, but not too much because this is the hip area. Again, you don't see too much of that. I'll use a little more on that curve. Yes. Here, I'm going up with the sari. Always remember there's also shades coming in because of she's the garlands that she's wearing. So be very sure of where you want to put those lines, those strokes of yellow there, those shiny strokes there. Okay. Yes, I have. I'm not doing too much of that here. This is the place where you don't see much of that light. It doesn't catch much of the light, so I'm just not going to do that too much here. A little bit, maybe, but not too much there, yeah? On the cloth that is flowing from her shoulder. Not too much. Yes. So I have managed to do that. And now I'm going to add a little bit of white and see what happens. So a lighter tonality. I have a bit of titanium white to add. I'm going to add very lightly, not too much, because I want to be sure that it doesn't give me a total feeling of what do you call pink also. So I'm ever so careful, and that's how the yellow that we added comes into play because it helps that it doesn't turn totally, yeah, totally pink. If you want it to be pink, then that's another story. Yeah, not too much. Denim white. So adding that white and remembering where to add, not in too many places. Yeah, it's just on the knee area. Yes, the kneecap. That's where the light is being caught. Yeah, that's a good area to think of. Yes. So gonna move it slightly down so you could see the nice flow from the knee area down there. So I'm adding a bit of titanium white, not too much. Blending it in, and you'll see that the Prussian blue was also blending in, giving another tonality altogether. This is funny, but it is really interesting to work with. Yeah. So if you see, I have just started working here on the cloth that is, falling off her shoulder. But I'm making sure that the one that has got the wave going up has got the light. So this is dark, yeah, and this isn't so much of light, so I'm not adding titanium white here at all. And I have done quite a bit of color adding here. So just look at it that we have added titanium white without causing the whole, the cloth material to turn pinky pink, just because we added a bit of Prussian blue and also we did this lemon yellow. All are just, counter attacking in a way, helping us to keep that, reddish feel still. Blended it nicely. It's a blending that's going to give you that natural effect. The more blending we are doing, the more natural you'll see that, it's turning into. Okay. I guess we are in a way done with her clothing. I'm going to do something like this, very similar to this, to add a lot of lemon yellow to a bit of vermilion and have that orangey color. That's what I'm going to use for Krishna's clothing. So we're going up there. Huh? We can finish that off also today. Yeah. So that's an easier one. So let's attack it. Getting the lighter tonality because I haven't changed the brush. I have the same color, but it's just the similar color tonality that we're using, remembering the angle of the cloth. We haven't used burnt umber at all, but it looks like it's working without that, isn't it? We try burnt umber here, maybe? That's a good idea. We good. So I'm going to take a little bit of burnt umber in this brush, number 0, and ever so lightly go along the line. Oh, it's got leftover Prussian blue. Yeah, but no problem. Doesn't matter if it is Prussian blue or burnt umber. I'm just going to use that to the benefit to just give that depth. So the contour lining, the flow of the cloth. And now we blend it in again. Yes. Wasn't that easy? Wow. I like the flow of this. Yeah. Right. And I'm just gonna throw in that darker tonality, adding a little bit more of this, that burnt umber, Prussian blue, anything that you would like to. You want to just give that effect of cloth going right behind his body. That's exactly what we are trying to do here, isn't it? So just keep that thing going and blend this in again, ever so lightly, ever so nicely here. Yes, I think the flow is done here also. So we manage this as well. So we'll make a stop here. So let's look at what we have done today. So today, as a summary, let's look at things that we have completed are basically the clothing of Radha and also um, the scarf that he is wearing on his shoulder or hand, Krishna's hand. So we have done that, and it did come with a lot of understanding of how the clothing is done, especially for those who are new to this culture. We used basically we used vermilion, we used Prussian blue to give that depth. Amazing, it turns blacky in some places. We did blend in little more of vermilion wherever needed to give that effect, and we could keep on adding, adjusting wherever we want. We added a little bit of lemon yellow, permanent yellow to the shades. Added titanium white and also managed to make sure that it doesn't turn totally pink. We did that, and we also did the same thing for his scarf or clothing that he is wearing. So we managed that today. In the next class, we will be able to focus on a similar angle for clothing that he is wearing, the dhoti that he is wearing. It's going to be yellow, and the green part of her blouse and also his dhoti that we have to work on. So we will do that as well. And if we manage that, we will be able to start with the jewelry as well. Let's see how lucky we could get in the coming sessions. But I guess we have come to a good conclusion as regards today's session. I hope you have enjoyed doing this, and this as opposed to the last 2 to 3 intense what do you call sessions on the face or the angles of the fingers or such. This was in a way different, but there's also angles that we could understand, the depth that we could build, yeah, on the clothing. So it was, I hope, useful and interesting for you to follow on. Do share your comments, your thoughts, feedback, queries, concerns, also the pictures. Like I said in the previous session, going forward, it also gets so intense in a way that if you're slightly off, you can always go back and forth and watch some of the videos again, try doing it again. But if you're totally off, it's a good decision for you to write to me, and let's find some help together. Let's work together via a Zoom call or something like that. Yes, feel free to write to me, support at theglazestudio.dk. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Bye bye.